I turned 80 last winter, but that is not where this story begins. If you were sitting with me now, at this small round table with the chipped edge and the lace tablecloth that refuses to lie flat, you would probably notice the folder first. It sits on the chair by the window, a plain gray thing with a metal clip that leaves rust marks on the paper. My tea is on a coaster with a faded picture of a sunflower. The steam curls up, mixing with the smell of fried onions from the downstairs neighbor's kitchen and the faint lemon of the cleaner I used on the floor this morning. Outside the window, the plum tree leans toward the street like an old woman listening for gossip. Nothing dramatic, nothing grand, just an old woman, a folder of documents, and a house that no longer belongs to her. People think wars start with shouting. Mine began with a sentence spoken too casually over soup. I have 3 children. That sounds like the beginning of a blessing, doesn't it? 3 children, 7 grandchildren, 1 old house with a red roof and a garden that has seen more birthdays than some people do in a lifetime. It should be enough for a peaceful old age. My oldest is Mark. He is 52, with a stomach that arrived 10 years before the rest of middle age and a voice that always sounds like he is making a phone call for business, even when he is just asking me if I still have that old frying pan. He lives about 40 minutes away, in a newer neighborhood with straight streets and identical trees. He works in something with numbers and contracts. I have stopped asking for details. He always answers in terms like assets and liquidity. And I find myself thinking of soup again. My middle child is Anna. She is 49 and lives closest to me, 10 minutes by bus, although she always says I'm just around the corner as if that makes the time she doesn't come feel shorter. She is a nurse, or was, until her back started complaining louder than her patients. Now she does some kind of administrative work at the clinic. She is practical, tired, and far softer inside than she lets anyone see. My youngest is Daniel, my baby. Although he is 43 and has more gray hair than I do. He lives abroad, always somewhere with a different time zone. When he calls, there is often a delay before I hear my own laughter echoing back at me through the phone. He works in computers, or with computers, or maybe inside them for all I know. Their father, my husband Petter, died 15 years ago in the most inconvenient way possible for a family that thought it had more time. A heart attack in the supermarket, between the apples and the potatoes. One minute he was complaining that the apples were too expensive, the next nobody could remember which bag was ours. The house we lived in together for 40 years sits on a quiet street that used to be louder when there were more children. The wooden steps creak in exactly the same places they did when my children tried to sneak out as teenagers. The kitchen window faces east, so the mornings arrive there first. It is a stubborn house, too big for 1 old woman, too small for 3 grown adults and their expectations. I did not always live alone in it. For the first years after Petter died, the house was crowded, grandchildren running through the hall in socks that slid on the polished floor, my children arriving with casseroles I did not always like but ate anyway because they were honored offerings of love and guilt. There were holidays, arguments about politics and parenting, jokes about how when mom is gone, we'll have to draw lots for this place. Everyone laughed then. That last part is important. Everyone laughed. The first time I felt the air shift, it was summer, and the curtains smelled of hot dust. Mark had come over for lunch, which meant I cooked too much and he ate without tasting it. He sat across from me at the table, his phone face down beside his plate in what he probably thought was a gesture of respect but felt more like he was expecting surgery at any moment. You should think about getting someone to help you in the house, Mom, he said between bites. A cleaner, at least. I have 2 hands, I answered. They still remember what to do. He smiled, but his eyes were not on me. They were on the wall behind me, where the big black and white wedding picture hung. Then they slid slightly to the right, to the framed photo of the house the day we finished painting it, the year he turned 14. You're not getting younger, he said. And this place, it's a lot. The stairs, the garden, the roof. What if something happens? Then something happens, I said, and I smiled to soften the edge, because mothers are trained to cushion the truth. If I start not managing, I will say. He nodded and tapped his fingers on the table. You know, real estate prices in this area have gone up a lot. Crazy market. I mean, it's good, of course, the value is there. But it also means you should plan. So nobody takes advantage. Later, I repeated, and scooped more soup into his bowl. He glanced toward the window again. Have you talked to a lawyer about anything? Just to have things in order. The house, your savings, Dad's pension. It's better to do these things while you're still, fully. He trailed off. Alive? I offered. I was going to say, independent, he replied, but his ears turned red. That was the first time. It was not an outrageous conversation. I am not stupid. I know what age does, how it steals gradually at first, then all at once. I have watched neighbors disappear from their gardens and reappear behind nursing home windows. Planning is sensible, responsible, adult, but something about the way his eyes measured the walls, the way his fingers drummed on the table when he said value, lodged itself in my mind like a shard of glass. Later that week, Anna came with a bag of groceries I did not ask for and noticed the same crack in the kitchen ceiling she had noticed every visit for the last 2 years. You really should let Mark call someone about this, she said. A good contractor. Before it gets worse. Everything gets worse, I replied, and she laughed softly. We sat together while she chopped vegetables with the knife she insisted on bringing from her own kitchen because mine were a danger to humanity. She asked how I slept, what I ate, whether I remembered to take my pills. Then, as she stirred the pot, she asked casually, do you still have Dad's documents? The deed for the house, the old insurance papers, all that? In the drawer, I said. Where they've always been. You should let me organize them. She suggested, just in case, if something happens and we have to, take care of things. There it was again, that phrase, take care of things, delivered with the same tone she used when she talked about a patient's wound dressing. I went to bed that night with the taste of overcooked carrots in my mouth and the strange idea that my life, as it was, had turned into a set of things that would someday need to be taken care of. The hospital came a few months later. I wish I could tell you it was dramatic, with me collapsing over my knitting or on a park bench, but reality is rarely so cinematic. It was a Wednesday. I had decided to move the armchair closer to the window and misjudged the weight. When I straightened up, the room tilted and moved sideways. The next thing I clearly remember is the smell of antiseptic and the too bright too white ceiling of the emergency ward. It was a small stroke, the doctor said, his voice polite and efficient. A warning bell, you could say. People talk about moments of clarity during such events. But my mind took longer. Clarity came a day later, in the form of my children's voices in the corridor. They did not know I was awake. They thought I was sleeping behind the half-drawn curtain, the way I had been half-sleeping all morning in a fog of medication. Mom is lucky, Anna's voice said, tired and tight. It could have been much worse. That's not what the doctor said, Mark answered. His tone was low, but I know his angry whisper as well as I know my own heartbeat. He said this is a sign that there might be more. We can't pretend she's fine anymore. She is fine, Anna insisted. She was gardening last week. She was dragging furniture, Mark snapped. Alone, in that maze of a house. What if she had fallen down the stairs? There was a pause. I heard the rustle of someone shifting their weight. We have to think long term, Mark continued. The house, the costs. If she needs care, we're not kids anymore. I know that, Anna said. Who do you think she calls every time the boiler makes a strange noise? I'm just saying, Mark went on. It would be better to get our names on some of the documents now. Before anything else happens. Power of attorney, co-ownership, something. Taxes are crazy, and if she ends up in a home, they can take the house to cover the costs. That's how it works. I've heard stories. You mean, Anna said slowly, put the house in one of our names? In our names, he corrected. We can decide how to split it later. But someone has to make sure it doesn't get eaten up by the system. It would be irresponsible not to. Daniel should be part of this conversation, Anna said. He's her son too. He's on another continent, Mark replied, and I could hear his shrug. He can join on a video call. But someone has to take the lead here. The words fell into my chest like small stones. They were not truly cruel. I understand what fear does to people. It translates love into logistics. But lying on that hospital bed, with a plastic bracelet around my wrist and tape pulling at the hairs on my arm. I felt something break, not my heart, something quieter, the illusion that my life was still entirely mine. The days after my discharge were full of kindness from people and pressure from paper. Neighbors brought soup, unsure if I was allowed to eat salt. The girl from the bakery around the corner slipped in extra pastries for strength. The nurse from the clinic called to check on my balance and my blood pressure. The world was full of hands keeping me upright. At the same time, letters began to arrive. The first was from an insurance company, full of small print and large numbers. The second from the hospital, polite and sterile. The third was from a law office I had never heard of. I opened it at the kitchen table, the afternoon light making the ink look blue. Dear Mrs. Novak, it began. We are writing in relation to your recent hospitalization and as per the inquiry of your son, Mr. Mark Novak. There was more, much more, phrases like durable power of attorney, estate planning, transfer of property, capacity evaluation. My name appeared many times, but each time it felt less like it belonged to me. I read it 3 times before I reached for the phone. Mark, I said when he answered. What is this? It's just information, Mom, he replied quickly. I asked a lawyer to outline the options. To protect you, and the house. You don't have to do anything. We'll go together, talk it through. It's normal to plan. Why did you not talk to me first? I asked. I am talking to you now. He said, that letter is just the formal. It's not a big deal. It is about my life, I said. He went quiet for a second. Yes, he said more gently. And that's why we have to be smart. Anna came the next day with a bag of tangerines and a furrow between her eyebrows. Did you see the letter? She asked without taking off her coat. I saw, I said. He's moving fast, she muttered, putting the fruit in my bowl with unnecessary force. He sent me an email with a draft of something. He wants me to review and sign. Review what? I asked. Some proposal about how the house should be handled, she said, shrugging out of her coat. S3 as co-owners together with you, so if something happens, it passes automatically. No inheritance tax, he says. No delays. He mentioned Daniel too, in theory. In theory, I repeated. Anna pulled a chair and dropped into it. He means well, she added, but her mouth tightened. He sees everything in terms of strategy. He's worried you'll fall and end up somewhere that will charge by the step. And you? I asked. Me? She rubbed her temples. I'm worried about your stairs, Mom. And your balance. And your blood pressure. Paperwork is not my priority. But if we don't do anything, we may regret it later. Especially Daniel, from a distance. He will say we handled everything without him. She sighed. He already wrote to me. What's going on with Mom's situation? Can you send me the docs Mark mentioned? Docs. That's you, now. A situation with docs. She said it with bitterness, but I heard her own fear underneath. 3 children, 3 different ways of loving you, none of them simple. The family group chat, which used to be full of blurry photos of grandchildren and reminders of birthdays, started changing. At first, it was small. A link from Daniel to an article, How to Protect Your Parents' Assets from Long-Term Care Costs. A message from Mark, we should schedule a call about Mom's future. All 3 of us. A line from Anna, let's not talk about this by text. Then there were screenshots. A copy of the email from the lawyer. A spreadsheet from Mark with columns labeled house, savings, pension, insurance, and then another with Scenario A, Scenario B, Scenario C. You made a spreadsheet about me? I asked him one Sunday when he came for coffee. It's not about you, he said, looking offended. It's about your finances. That is me, I responded. At least in your world now. He rolled his eyes. Mom, don't be dramatic. We're trying to be responsible. You want chaos after you're gone? I am not gone, I said. He exhaled, looked at the ceiling, and then at his watch. Daniel called less often, but when he did, he asked questions he never asked before. Do you have any debts, Mom? He asked one evening, his face pixelated on my screen, the light behind him too strong. Only to my own knees, I said. I'm serious, he insisted. Credit cards, anything like that? Because if something happens, you will all have to deal with my messy kitchen drawers, I replied. That is punishment enough. He didn't laugh. He wrote something down on a notepad I could just see at the bottom of the frame. After we hung up, My apartment felt larger and colder. You have to understand something. I am not innocent in all of this. By the time my children started their war, I had already been thinking about my inheritance for years. Not as a pile of money or a house, but as a last conversation. What do you say to your children when you are no longer there to explain yourself? I had made a will, quietly, long before my stroke. A simple one. Everything divided equally between the three of them: the house, the money, the few pieces of jewelry that were worth more emotionally than financially. It felt fair, clean, like washing all the dishes before you leave the house. But fairness is not as simple as dividing a number by 3. Mark is the oldest. He argues that he has always been the one to handle things since their father died: the bank appointments, the phone calls with the gas company, the negotiations with the roofers. He earns the most, but he also believes he carries the most responsibility. Anna is the one who shows up. She takes me to my doctor appointments, picks up my prescriptions, brings me soup when I have a cold, argues with the plumber when he double charges. She has sacrificed time and sleep for me, in a way the others have not. Daniel is far away, but he has his own story. He left partly because we encouraged him. Go, we said, build your life. Don't stay chained to this city. Now he sends money when he can, calls as often as time zones allow, and carries the guilt of distance like a stone in his pocket. If I divided the inheritance by effort, it would not look equal. If I divided it by need, it would look different again. If I divided it by love, well, how do you measure that? These thoughts had lived quietly at the back of my mind, like a box on the top shelf of a closet. The stroke, and the conversations that followed, dragged that box down, opened it, and scattered everything on the floor. The big discovery, as people like to call it when they want a turning point, did not come from a dramatic confession or a hidden document in a secret drawer. It came from my own carelessness. Anna had dropped by after work, still in her uniform, smelling of disinfectant and exhaustion. She made coffee while I peeled potatoes. We talked about nothing important: a neighbor's new dog, the rising price of tomatoes, the latest gossip from her clinic. I brought your blood test results, she said, pulling an envelope out of her pocket. Everything looks fine, by the way. Better than some of my colleagues in their 30s. Good, I said, and she smiled. Her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it and frowned. It's Mark, she said. Again. He's obsessed. Let me just. She opened the message, read it, typed a quick answer, then set the phone down, screen up, before going to the bathroom. I had no intention of reading their conversation. I am old, not rude. But when the screen lit up again with another message, my eyes fell on the words before I could look away. We need to push this before she backs out, Mark's text said. If she signs the power of attorney now, we can restructure the house and avoid problems later. Daniel agrees. He said, get her to sign while she's still competent. His words, not mine. My hand tightened around the potato peeler. Another message popped up. And don't be sentimental about this, Anna. You already get more from her than any of us: time, attention, help with the kids. This is about being rational. The house is the main asset. It needs a clear plan. Otherwise, the government or some gold-digging caregiver she hires later will get to it first. I kept staring at the word asset. When Anna came back, I was still holding the peeler in midair. Everything okay? She asked. What is an asset? I asked. She froze. Her eyes dropped to the screen. Color drained from her face. Mom, I'm sorry, she said quickly. He's just, you know how he is. I know exactly how he is, I said. I did not raise strangers. She picked up the phone, locked it with a trembling thumb, and slipped it into her pocket. He's worried, she said. We all are, but he talks like that. Get her to sign while she's still competent, I repeated slowly. Such a pretty phrase. She closed her eyes briefly. He shouldn't have written that. I told him. This is not. Look, Mom, nobody wants to hurt you. We don't know how long you'll be as independent as you are now. It's scary. For us too. You are scared, I said. So you plan what will happen when I am gone. I understand, but you are planning as if I am already not fully here. Anna's eyes filled with tears. She came closer, reached for my hand. That's not what I mean. But that is what it feels like, I answered. In that moment, something quietly slid into place inside me. Not anger, something slower, a decision that had been forming for months. Finally She blinked, then smiled faintly. I'll see if someone is available. After 20 minutes, I was sitting across from a woman in her 30s with her hair in a tight bun and glasses that kept sliding down her nose. Her nameplate said Attorney L. Kralova. How can I help you, Mrs. Novak? She asked. My children are preparing to fight over my inheritance, I said. The problem is that I am not dead yet. Her eyebrows went up a fraction, but she did not laugh. That is unfortunately not rare, she said gently. Tell me what is happening. I told her about the stroke, the letters, the text messages, the spreadsheets. I told her about my old will and my doubts. Her pen moved quietly over the paper as I spoke. When I finished, she pushed her glasses up and looked at me. You are mentally competent, she said. Very clearly so. You have every right to decide what happens to your assets during your lifetime and after. My assets, I repeated, tasting the word like a foreign food. You mean my house, my savings, the earrings I got from my mother? Yes, she said, all of it. The law gives you options. You can keep things as they are. You can change your will. You can give gifts while you are alive, with or without conditions. You can set up a trust, assign a charity, create a life estate. It depends on what you want. What I want, I said slowly, is for my children not to destroy each other over this house. Or over me. She nodded. You cannot control their behavior. She said, but you can control what they will have to fight over. We sat in silence for a moment. I watched a dust mote float in the sunlight between us, remembering the boys who used to race toy cars across this city and the girl who used to fall asleep with a book on her face. My children, my life's work. Can I do something that makes sure I have enough to live on comfortably? I asked, but leaves them with less to fight about? Yes, she said, there are ways. We can, for example, sell the house now, move you into a smaller apartment that is fully yours, put part of the money into an annuity to guarantee you income, and donate or allocate the remainder according to your wishes. You can leave them something, of course, but you can also set conditions. Or you can donate more to a cause you care about. I thought about the charity that had helped me pay my university fees 50 years ago, about the scholarship fund named after a teacher who believed in poor students with cheap shoes. I thought about the women's shelter I had donated small amounts to over the years, the one that sent holiday cards with handwritten notes. I have always wanted to give back more, I said quietly. But I kept thinking I should leave everything to the children, that it was my duty. It is not a duty, the lawyer said. It is a choice. A choice, I repeated. Once, I chose to have children. Now I can choose what to leave behind. The plan came together piece by piece in that little office. With legal terms I wrote down carefully even though I knew I would not remember them all later. We would appraise the house. We would find a buyer. I would buy a smaller apartment, with an elevator and a balcony where I could still grow herbs. I would secure a steady monthly income. I would allocate a portion of the remaining money to a scholarship fund and the shelter. The rest, what was left, would be divided between my children equally, but in amounts so clearly modest that fighting over them would feel ridiculous. We would also update my will to reflect reality and revoke any previous powers of attorney that might be lying around waiting to be misused. You don't have to tell your children every detail, the lawyer said. But I recommend discussing your main decision with them. It may be difficult, but secrets are heavier after death. I am tired of secrets, I replied. I will tell them. In my house, while it is still mine. Arranging the sale of the house felt like arranging my own amputation. The real estate agent was a thin man with perfect hair and an unshakable smile. Charming, he called the house. Full of character, by which he meant, old, but in a neighborhood where developers salivate. He walked through the rooms with his tablet, measuring, taking pictures, making notes. Original flooring? He asked. Original everything, I answered. Including the owner. He laughed politely. Strangers came to visit with their shoes in plastic covers, their eyes scanning the walls like predators. A young couple who whispered excitedly about knocking down walls. A middle-aged man who poked at the window frames and muttered about insulation. A woman in a sharp suit who didn't look at the garden at all, only at the street. I made coffee for some of them, stood in the kitchen like a ghost, listening to them discuss my life in square meters. Nice light, one said. The kitchen is small, another remarked. The garden has potential, a third observed, as if the decades of tomatoes and roses were just some messy draft. I reminded myself that I had chosen this, that this was my strategy, my way of taking control back. It did not stop the ache each evening when I walked through the rooms and touched the door frames with my fingertips, saying silent goodbyes. I did not tell my children immediately. I needed the plan clear, the contracts signed in principle, before I faced their reactions. The day came sooner than I expected. One afternoon, the agent called. "We have a serious offer," he said. "Above asking price. They want a quick closing." My chest tightened, but my voice stayed calm. "Except," I said. When I hung up, the house was quiet. Even the refrigerator seemed to hold its breath. I sat at the table and looked around, the clock on the wall, the shelf with cookbooks, the ugly but comfortable armchair by the window. All of it, soon to belong to someone else. All of it, temporary after all. Then I called my children. "I don't understand," Mark said. "You sold the house?" His voice over the phone was sharp. Incredulous. "I accepted an offer," I corrected. "The papers are not signed yet. But yes, the process has begun." "Without talking to us?" he demanded. "I am the owner," I said. "It is my decision to make." "But this affects all of us," he argued. "This is our inheritance you're talking about." "No," I replied. "This is my home." There was a pause on the line. I could hear him breathing. "Mom," he said, trying for a calmer tone. "Listen, I'm not against you doing what you need. But selling now, like this, it's impulsive. We could have structured it smarter. There are tax implications, long-term care considerations, all kinds of angles. You should have let me advise you." "I have a lawyer," I said. "A lawyer?" he repeated. "Who?" "Not yours," I answered. Another pause. "This is ridiculous," he said finally. "We need to talk in person. All of us. You, me, Anna, and Daniel. No more secrets." "I agree," I said. "Come on Sunday. I will make lunch." I called Anna next. She listened without interrupting. "I knew you were planning something," she said quietly. "I could see it in your face." "Are you angry?" I asked. She sighed. "I don't know, Mom. I'm sad. I love this house. It's our childhood. But I also know it's a heavy burden for you. I don't want you to break your neck because you refuse to let go of the stairs." "I am more than my stairs," I said. "I know," she replied. "I'll be there Sunday." Daniel was last. The distance crackled between us. "You sold the house?" he asked, echoing his brother's opening line. I could almost see them, these two, made from the same original clay but shaped into different pots. "I have taken steps to sell it," I said. "It is not gone yet." He was silent for a long moment. "Are you doing this because of us?" he asked. "Because of what Mark and Anna talked to you about." "I am doing this because I do not want you to spend your old age fighting over rooms you did not clean," I said. He made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "That's not fair, Mom." "Fairness," I said, "is exactly what we will talk about on Sunday. If you cannot come, we will set up a video call." "I'll try," he said. "Flights are expensive. I am not asking you to attend my funeral," I replied. "Just a family lunch." He sucked in a breath. "Okay," he said, "I'll see what I can do." Sunday arrived with the smell of roasted chicken and fresh bread. I woke early, habit stronger than age, and moved through the kitchen with the muscle memory of decades. Garlic under the knife, potatoes in the pan, carrots peeled, sliced, laid out with a little sugar to help them caramelize. Cooking for my grown children feels different now than when they were small. Then, it was about filling their bodies so they could grow taller. Now, it feels like filling time, so it doesn't collapse under the weight of unsaid things. I set the table with the good plates, the ones with the blue edge we only used for holidays, and the glasses that don't match because some have broken over the years. In the middle, instead of flowers, I placed the gray folder from the chair by the window. Anna arrived first, with a cake from the bakery and circles under her eyes. "Smells good," she said, kissing my cheek. "What are we celebrating or mourning?" "You will decide which," I replied. Mark came next, wearing a shirt that tried to look casual and failed. He carried a bottle of wine. "Where's Daniel?" he asked, looking around. On the screen, I said, nodding toward the laptop on the sideboard. Already open. Daniel's face flickered into focus as I clicked. Hi, he said. Hey, everyone. Okay, Mark said, taking his seat at the table. Let's talk. No, I said. First we eat. We are still a family, not a board of directors. We ate, mostly in silence. There were a few safe remarks about the weather, about traffic, about the price of eggs. Everyone praised the chicken more than it deserved. The laptop sat at the end of the table, Daniel's image watching us like a ghost at a feast. When the plates were pushed back and the cake half eaten, I folded my hands on the table. Now, I said, we talk. Mark reached into his bag and pulled out a folder of his own. Anna's lips tightened. Daniel shifted on the screen. I'll start, Mark said, but I held up a hand. No, I said calmly. You have all had your turn in corridors, in messages, in calls I was not part of. Now it is my turn. You will listen. After, you can speak. To my slight surprise, he leaned back and nodded. I know you are worried, I began. I know you love me, each in your own difficult way. I also know you have been talking about my death as if it is a meeting you need to prepare for. You have talked about my house, my savings, my things. You have used words like asset, structure, strategy. You have said I should sign things while I am still competent. Mark's eyes dropped. Anna stared at her hands. On the screen, Daniel rubbed his forehead. I understand the fear, I continued. I was there when my own parents got old. I watched them lose control of their lives one small compromise at a time. I do not want that. And I do not want my last gift to you to be a battlefield. I tapped the gray folder in front of me. So I made a decision. Several, in fact. I have consulted a lawyer. Not Mark's. I looked at him briefly. My own. I have agreed to sell this house. The process is underway. I will move to a smaller apartment with an elevator and no stairs. I will use part of the money to make sure I can live comfortably for the rest of my life. With help if I need it, without asking any of you for permission or coins. Anna opened her mouth. Mom, let me finish, I said, gently but firmly. I will donate a portion of the remaining money to a scholarship fund that helped me when I was young, and to the women's shelter in the next district. These places have been in my thoughts for years. I am done postponing my gratitude until after I am dead. I took a breath. What is left after that will be divided between the three of you. Equally. It will not make any of you rich. It will not solve your problems. It will simply be a final envelope from me, saying, thank you for being my children. Silence sat heavy between us. Mark was the first to react. He leaned forward, his face flushed. You're giving away our inheritance? He asked. To strangers? It is my money, I replied. There is no "our" until I am gone. And even then, only if I say so. That house is our childhood, Anna said quietly. Our memories. Those are not for sale, I said. They stay with you. In your heads, not in bricks. Daniel's voice came through the speakers, a fraction behind reality. I'm not against you giving to charity, Mom, he said. Really, I think it's good, but why the secrecy? Why not involve us in the plan? I smiled sadly. Because you were already making plans without me, I said. You were not involving me. You were involving my name, my signature, my house. Not my voice. I wanted to make a choice that was mine. Before it all became a negotiation. Mark shook his head. This is emotional, he said. You're punishing us. If I were punishing you, I replied, I would leave everything exactly as it is. Let you inherit this house jointly. And watch from heaven as you destroy each other trying to agree on what color to paint the hallway. Anna snorted, a startled half laugh that turned into a choke. Tears filled her eyes. Mom, she said, wiping them with the back of her hand. That's not wrong. I am not punishing you, I continued. I am protecting myself, and perhaps, in a way, protecting you from the worst versions of yourselves. It's not fair, Mark insisted. I've put so much into this house. Time, money, the new boiler, the roof repairs. I practically managed this place like a project. I know, I said. And I am grateful, truly, but those were not investments. They were acts of care. If you saw them as money you would get back with interest, then we have a bigger problem than I thought. He recoiled as if I had slapped him. So that's what you think of me. I think you are afraid, I said calmly. Afraid of the future, of costs, of your own aging. So you grab at what you can control. Spreadsheets, contracts, numbers. But you cannot turn everything into numbers, Mark. Not me. Anna reached for his hand, but he pulled it away. What about me? She asked, her voice small. I'm here all the time. I help you with everything. And now it sounds like you're saying it doesn't matter. It matters more than anything, I said. Which is why I will not put you in a position where you have to be both my caregiver and my landlord. You already sacrifice enough. I refuse to mortgage your love with my floor plan. She pressed her lips together, nodded slowly. And me? Daniel asked. What is my role in this? The distant son who gets the same amount as the ones who changed light bulbs and argued with plumbers. You are the son who left when we told him to, I said. Who calls when he can, sends money when he can, carries his own guilt. Your distance is not a crime that needs to be punished with less money. It is a fact. Over the years, each of you has given me something different. None of it can be measured in currency. So yes, what is left after my choices will be divided equally. Not because your efforts are equal, but because my love for you is. The room was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. I am not asking for your approval, I added. I am telling you what will happen. You have a right to your feelings. You do not have a right to my fear. Mark pushed his chair back. It scraped loudly against the floor. This is unbelievable, he said. You always talk about family, about staying together. But this is you choosing strangers over us. The scholarship fund gave me a future when no one else could, I said. The shelter gives women safety when their own families betray them. They are not strangers to me. They are part of the life I lived before you, and the world I will leave behind after you. You three have had my time, my energy, my sleepless nights, my Sunday dinners. They can have some of my money. He shook his head again, stood up. I need some air, he muttered, and left the room. Anna sat very still, eyes on the tablecloth. I'm angry, she said softly. And I don't want to be. I understand you, but I also. It hurts. I know, I replied. I am sorry for that. There was no version of this story where nobody got hurt. I don't care about the money, she said quickly, then grimaced. No, that's not true. I do care, a little. It would help, but not enough to fight over. It's just knowing that the house will be gone. That there will be a day when I can't come here and smell the same smell of whatever you're cooking. You can come to my new kitchen, I said. I promise I will burn onions there too. She laughed through her tears. On the screen, Daniel exhaled. I think you're brave, Mom, he said. Scary, but brave. I am terrified, I answered. Brave people are not those without fear. They are those who sign documents despite trembling hands. We sat there, the three of us in the room, one on a screen, the ghost of Petter somewhere in the walls, and let the new reality settle over us like dust after a collapse. The weeks that followed were messy. Mark did not speak to me for 10 days. When he finally called, his voice was flat. I've reviewed the documents from your lawyer, he said. They're acceptable, structurally sound. I still think you're making an emotional decision, but it's your right. Thank you for your professional evaluation of my life, I replied dryly. He almost laughed. Almost. He came by to help with some of the more tedious parts of the move, canceling utility contracts, negotiating with the internet provider, labeling boxes. He did it all efficiently, like a man executing a contract he disagreed with but could not legally stop. Anna oscillated between quiet sadness and bursts of practical energy. You'll love the new place, she said as we walked through the empty apartment that would be my next home. No stairs. The elevator even works most of the time. The balcony gets good light. We can put your herbs there. Basil, dill, the rosemary you've kept alive for 10 years somehow. It will feel strange, I admitted. It will, she agreed. But strange isn't always bad. Daniel came to visit for the first time in 3 years. He slept on the old sofa under the painting his father hated. We stayed up late each night, surrounded by half-packed boxes, talking not about inheritance but about small things. The neighbor who still feeds stray cats, the teacher who had died last year, the taste of the bakery's buns. On his last day, he helped me pack the photo albums. This one should go with you, he said, tapping one with a green cover. Not in storage. In the new place. So it feels like home faster. You sound like the real estate agent, I said. I'm better looking, he replied. We smiled at each other, the kind of smile that comes after a storm. The day I handed over the keys to the house, the sky was clear. The new owners were a young couple with a baby who screamed in the car seat while we signed the final papers. The baby's cries echoed faintly in my bones, a reminder of another time when the house was full of that sound. Congratulations, the husband said, shaking my hand. We'll take good care of it. I believe you will, I said. The house likes children. Be kind to the stairs, they complain, but they are loyal. They laughed, not quite understanding, and drove away to their new beginning. I stood on the sidewalk for a long time, looking at the red roof, the crooked gutters, the window where Petter once tried to install an air conditioner and almost dropped it on the cat. Then I turned and walked toward the bus stop. My new apartment was half the size, with walls that smelled faintly of fresh paint and someone else's history. The first night, it felt like a hotel. The second, like a decision. By the third, when I had found the right corner for my armchair and the right spot for the clock, it began to feel like a home. The donation to the scholarship fund went through a week later. They sent me a letter, printed but signed by hand. Your generosity will support students who, like you once did, dream of a future that feels bigger than their circumstances, it said. I put the letter in the gray folder, behind the copy of my new will. The women's shelter sent a card drawn by a child, a house with flowers in front of it and hearts in the sky. No amount of money can fix what happens inside some walls, but it can at least keep other doors open. As for my children, the war they had prepared never fully erupted. There were skirmishes, small resentments, moments when one or the other would say, if you hadn't, and then stop. But there were also dinners, calls, photos of grandchildren in costumes. Mark still sighs when the topic comes up. You could have trusted me to handle it rationally, he says sometimes. I did trust you, I answer. To be rational, that was the problem. I needed to be human. Anna visits often, complaining about the bus schedule and the noise from the street. I miss the old kitchen, she says, opening my new cupboards and rearranging things. But I like that I don't worry about you falling down the stairs every time I leave. Daniel calls from different time zones, and sometimes he even joins our Sunday lunches through the screen, his face propped up between the salad bowl and the bread basket. Life did not turn into a moral advertisement for my choices. There is no neat happily ever after. There is just after. Now, when I sit at this little table by the window in my smaller kitchen, sipping tea from the sunflower coaster, I think about inheritance. We imagine inheritance as a chest of gold handed down on a dramatic day. In reality, most of what we pass on does not fit in folders. My mother left me her hands, strong, veined, capable. She also left me her fear of not having enough, which took me decades to unlearn. Petter left me this habit of stirring the soup 3 times counterclockwise before tasting it, as if direction matters. He also left me a house that was both shelter and burden. What I will leave my children is less tangible, the memory of a stubborn old woman who refused to let them pre-write her ending. The knowledge that their mother chose to help strangers they will never meet, not instead of them, but alongside them. And, yes, some money. Enough to be useful, not enough to be a weapon. Sometimes I think about an alternate version of this story, where I said nothing, changed nothing, died quietly in that big house, and watched from somewhere as my children tore it, and each other, apart with lawyers and accusations. That would have been easier for me. Silence always is, in the short term. But I would have left them a battlefield instead of a memory. So here I am, an old woman by a window, with a folder on the chair and the sound of traffic instead of birds. The plum tree is gone, but there is a small potted plant on my balcony that leans toward the sun with ridiculous determination. Sometimes I touch its leaves and say, you and me both. My children began a war for my inheritance while I was still alive. They didn't mean to. Most wars don't start with evil. They start with fear, and the belief that there will not be enough. I could not stop their fear, but I could remove the explosives from the field. If there is a moral here, it is not a grand one. Just this: you are allowed to spend your life while you are still living it. Your house is a home, not a trophy for the ones who outlive you. Your money is a tool, not a test of your children's love. I used to think my legacy would be the bricks of that old house. Now I think it is this choice, to refuse to die in advance just so others can plan around my absence. When I am gone, my children will still have their memories, their grudges, their love, their complicated lives. They will stand in their own kitchens, stirring their own soups, making their own decisions. Maybe sometimes, when they argue about something silly, one of them will remember this whole story and think, let's not turn this into a war. If that happens even once, then my inheritance will have been well spent.